Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Tea with Z. My name is Zimmer Solanke, and it's an absolute pleasure to be joining each and every one of you again this morning. And if you are watching live, give me some likes, give me some hearts, because I absolutely love all of your amazing energy, and I love to give it back in spades in return, because that's what it's all about here. It's all about that energy exchange each and every morning on these episodes of Tea with Z. And if you are watching even live or a replay, definitely drop a comment in the comment section below because we'd love to hear from you as well. And before we kick into it, just a couple more things. If you haven't got your tea, coffee, cuppa, whatever that might look like, go and grab that now because we're about to jump into it. And also, special shout out to those that are joining us from the Limitless Network. The Limitless Network is a group of like-minded people who value health in any way, shape, or form for personal reasons, for business reasons, for both, whatever it looks like, whatever business, not necessarily a health-related business, whoever that might be. This is a group for you. So kicking off on today's topic, following on the theme being the shorter week in Brisbane that we're experiencing this week because of the change in the public holiday from our show day public holiday back in August to now the end of this week. We've started the conversation talking about the role of panic buying and the anxieties that pop up from that as a result of these shorter weeks, as a result of changes in our normal circumstances, and as a result of feelings that I guess pop up when we've got that sense of urgency or even that fear of missing out or that sense of lack as well. Now, what I really wanted to talk to you about today, is the role of panic. And when we are in a heightened or stressed state, and then the effects on our abilities to rationalize thought and effectively communicate. And I really wanted to touch on this because at the end of the day, it's so important that, when we are in a heightened state of panic or stress, regardless whether or not we're a customer, consumer, or patient, or we're an entrepreneur running a business, our team, our colleagues, whatever that might look like, we're in a heightened state of stress or anxiety or tension. How does that come up for us and how does that show up for us? And what does that start to impact in the biology of us that actually impairs our ability to make rational decisions and rational thought? Now, for us, there's three brains, Broadly speaking, there's three brains. We have the reptilian brain, we have the limbic system or the mammalian brain, and then we've got the neocortex or the prefrontal cortex as well. And when you look at those three brains and the way in which they're structured, the first brain is, I guess the reptilian brain. Is this safe? Is this not? Should I be afraid of it? Do I need to fear it and fight it? Or is it offering me some level of comfort and safety? The second brain, the mammalian brain, helps to regulate our emotional thoughts, So regarding within our limbic system and our mammalian brain adds us to create a connection to that, uh, those thoughts and processes that have come through the reptilian brain. So the reptilian brain is gone, yes, this is safe. And then how do we feel about it? How do we feel about it? And that's our limbic system. And that starts to go, well, if it's safe, am I curious now? Am I curious as to what this might be? Oh, I feel a little bit safe, but oh, this is something new. Am I curious about it? Or am I intrigued? Or is it something that I'm familiar with? Do I still feel safe? And as a result of that, there's this, I guess, a circulatory response and feedback mechanism between these two brain systems. And then, though, what allows us to put some rational thought on top of all of this is our neocortex. And what happens in young children, and we see this all the time, and I see it every now and then with Syra, is that when she's undergoing periods of stress, that neocortex or prefrontal cortex is completely cut off. She's unable to regulate that emotional thought within her mammalian brain or limbic system. And as a result of that, her prefrontal cortex or neocortex is cut off. and she can't rationalize those thoughts. And as a result of not being able to rationalize those thoughts, she can't regulate that at this age right now. And as a result of that, as we grow up, as we learn and educate ourselves, we start to learn how to regulate. But when we're under those periods of stress as adults, similar things also happen, and if we don't become consciously aware of it, then it becomes a lot harder for us to regulate. And as a result of that, when we're under immense levels of panic or anxiety or stress, science has shown that our prefrontal cortex or our neocortex starts to diminish in its ability to actually undertake rational thought. And a lot of these studies started out from way back in the Second World War, when you've got these highly skilled operatives, highly skilled infantry troops, highly skilled pilots, that particularly with pilots, that they would be so skilled knowing how to navigate these planes, and they could navigate and fly these planes, and I guess operate these planes when there was low levels of stress really effectively and efficiently. But as soon as those stressful environments started to hit, they found that their decision making processes were severely impaired. And as a result of that, all of the training, all of the lessons started to actually not come into play, because they couldn't rationalize the thoughts of using those skills and lessons to help them navigate the situations that they were facing. And as a result, their planes would crash, they would end up in other situations. And I guess what that started to question was, well, why are these highly skilled pilots actually now resulting in these outcomes where we've trained them how to do this, but now they've entered this environment and gone, well, what's changed? Well, the stress was the change. And on our brain and our biology, not being adapted to that stress and conditioned to that stress didn't allow them to actually then rationalize those thoughts and use that neocortex effectively and efficiently. The stress, the anxiety, the panic resulted in that neocortex then being cut off. So I guess what's the lesson out of this? What's the lesson out of this? We're seeing now increasing amounts of anxiety, stress, and panic within our communities. Not only in the pandemic, but moving forward, we're going to be seeing it even more. We're seeing now privacy concerns coming up. If it's not the pandemic from a virus, it's the pandemic of misinformation. It's the pandemic of overinformation. It's the pandemic of uh, fears of social exclusion. Whatever it might look like to you or in your community, there are so many other reasons that panic is going to set in. And whether or not that's buying and increased fears that result in that, the fear of missing out, these Black Friday sales, for example, whatever it might look like, how are we as health entrepreneurs then educating our patients to better be able to regulate and utilize skills in order to manage their stress more effectively and efficiently? Because at the end of the day, the brain is, probably one of the, like the heart is a muscle, and we need to stretch it. We need to, obviously it doesn't have the same structures like the heart or like a normal muscular tissue, but a lot of people liken it to being like a muscle. You've got to stretch it, you've got to flex it, you've got to test it, you've got to, exercise it in order to keep it, I guess, malleable and adaptable. And the way in which we can do this is then start to work actively to regulate these stresses within our environment. And what's come up for me lately is that, I've seen people enter a state of panic and make impulsive and irrational decisions as a result of that. Decisions that later on they sit down and reflect and go, well, wait a minute, that was quite impulsive. That was not what I was meant to have done. And because now your rational thoughts come out, you're not in that heightened state of panic, stress, or anxiety. Your prefrontal cortex is coming back into play. And you're able to rationalize your thoughts and then reflect on it. So, but my question to you is then, what are you doing after that? What are you doing after that? Because at the end of the day, if you recognize that at some time, then what are you doing then to correct whatever decisions or lack of decisions or poor decisions maybe that you had made when you weren't regulating those emotions, I guess, appropriately, which resulted in maybe impacts on your customers, your patients, your consumers, your teams, your colleagues, your leadership structures, whatever that might look like in your business. How have you adapted to that when panic has set in? And how have you then responded when you've had the ability to sit down and actually obtain rational thought? So that's my question for you today is knowing the biology, knowing that we now switch off our prefrontal cortex, that stress, anxiety, tension, panic causes our inability from a biological level to actually utilize our prefrontal cortex to make rational decisions. Knowing that now, what are you going to do differently? What are you going to do differently to help actually manage this appropriately? And then if you then make decisions that aren't in service to what you're all about, then how are you reflecting on it? And drop some comments in the comment section below. I'm really curious to see what your takeouts are from this because, like I said, this is quite reflective. But if you want to talk about the how, feel free to reach out to me. There's a lot of tips and tricks about regulating stress and emotion within these episodes of Tea with C, and I'm not going to deep dive into it today because I'm conscious of the time that we have together. But if you do want to find out more, that's what I'm here for. Because at the end of the day, we all undertake periods of stress. And as a result of that, how can then we look to the future to really be able to regulate these periods, but then encourage our consumers, our patients, and our customers to also do the same? What tools and resources can we give them? So that's it from me today. And another way to share what you're talking about or what you want to, what's come up for you today is in the Limitless Network, which is a safe space. And I really want to really stress this. The Limitless Network is a safe space to do this. And the details are in the comment section below to join. But yeah, that's my question for you today. Knowing this biology, knowing the fact that when in terms of panic, stress, or anxiety, our rational thought processes are limited, what are you going to do now to change that up for you, your team, your colleagues, your customers, patients, and consumers? So that's my question for you today. I really look forward to reading your responses in the comment section below. But that's it from me today. I look forward to catching up for another another episode, with all of you tomorrow on all of these socials, but exclusively on Friday in the Limitless Network for another episode of Tea with Z. That's it from me today. Have an amazing day. Take care, stay well, and I look forward to catching up with you then. Bye for now.